Hello and welcome back to the Abundant Business Podcast. Today, I am really excited to be talking to Sara, who is a Google Ads expert specialising in helping online retailers to understand Google Shopping so that you can sell more products. So welcome to Sara. Please introduce yourself and give us a bit of background as to how you started and what's going on now.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Samuel. Yes, I currently, as you've mentioned, work with Google Ads. So I work with clients, but I also teach people how to do Google Shopping. So e-commerce businesses, how to do Google Shopping. I got into it because back in 2004, I actually started my own e-commerce business. So I ran that for about 12 years. I was selling favor boxes online and wedding stationery and all beautiful stuff like that. Kind of long story short, I kind of started using Google Shopping and, well, it wasn't called Google Shopping then, Google Ads to generate traffic for my own business. Ended up totally reliant on organic traffic. And in 2012, ended up being slammed by, was it the Penguin? I think Penguin was the first big algorithm update with Google, wasn't it? I think in May 2012. It's indelibly
That was a bad
burned into
time for
my
you,
head
wasn't it?
because literally overnight I lost all my traffic to my website and like just everything disappeared. So that was when I kind of mad scramble panic. I had to figure out how to get traffic to my website. So that's when I got back into Google Ads and then specifically Google Shopping. So I was kind of bumbling through that for the first 6 months or so, and then realized that actually I was quite enjoying doing that side of it and invested a lot in learning more and figuring out how to do it myself. And then 2016, I kind of had lost the passion for the e-commerce business. So I shut that down and started doing Google Ads for other people. I realized actually probably the pandemic was what hit it home, was how many people were not doing a good job of selling online, because obviously then all of a sudden these shops were shut. Everybody was scrambling to start trying to sell online instead of in person, but they just didn't know what they were doing. And they didn't have anywhere to go. So that's how the Online Retail Academy really came about, was me thinking, I know how to do this. I can help people and I want to help people.
Welcome to the show where we're ready to grow. With Sara Chapman here to let you know we're diving deep into the world of success. Get ready to learn, cause we're here to impress. From entrepreneurship to the latest trends, we'll explore all the ways to make ends in this fast-paced, ever-changing game. We're gonna set your dreams aflame. The Abundant Business Podcast. It's time to ignite with Samuel Chapman, leading the fight. Get ready to elevate your business game. Join us now. It's time to reclaim.
You can drive as much traffic to your website as you like. And if you're really lucky, you run something like Facebook ads or Google ads or whatever other kind of ads, TikTok ads, whatever. And if you're really lucky, all that traffic will come and they will buy and it'll be lovely. But most of the time, it's not the ads that convert the traffic. It's the website that converts the traffic, and it's your email marketing that converts. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, there's so much more to it than just learning how to run ads. You have to understand how it all fits together with everything else as well.
That's brilliant. Well, yeah, I mean, I talk about it's sort of like there's connection and then there's nurture, and you have to be able to fully understand who this person is and why they're looking for your product in the first place to get them to you and stand out in front of them. But then once you've got them, you've got to nurture this person to take them down your funnel and to introduce them to you and how you can benefit them in the best way possible.
Yeah. I think a lot of e-commerce businesses don't really think of funnels.
Yeah.
Because anybody who's done a little bit of marketing, digital marketing, I hate that term, but anyway, digital marketing, and kind of generating leads, they understand that people talk about funnels all the time in that kind of realm, but a lot of e-commerce businesses, I don't think they very often actually consciously think about that funnel. And it is still a funnel. It is still cold people coming in at the top, getting to know you, getting to understand your products, getting to like you, and then coming down to buy. And so, yeah, that's a really good point that you make there, that you have to be aware of that and conscious about the fact that they're not, well, they might just come cold and buy. That's great, but most people won't.
No, and actually it's the same whether you're in a brick and mortar as well as like if you're shopping like e-commerce, like there is this whole, they have to know, like, and trust you before they are likely to go on to buy from you.
Yes.
And I think it's important to work on that to, well, yeah, to encourage not just one purchase, but to encourage them to come back again and again and again.
Well, yeah, that's the ultimate aim, isn't it? It's like, yeah, you pay all this money to get a visitor, to get a new customer. The big goal is to just get them to buy again, because that's, once you've paid for them in the first place, everything after that is a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah, completely.
So many people forget. They just, oh yeah, we got a sale, whoop, and then they forget about them.
And there's no like back end to it. Like the real, well, the real sales come from when you have this complete flow built out and you understand how that customer is thinking and feeling throughout their journey with your business to keep them coming back again and again.
Yes, yeah, and to spend more when they do come, all those little subtle things that you can do to encourage people. I mean, you know this, you talk about this all the time. It's like 3 ways to grow a business: get more customers, get them to spend more, get them to buy more often. That's it. That's the only way to grow a business. You talk about this too.
And the only one I would add into that is mindset, because I think, yes, you can do all those 3 things. And yeah, you need more customers, you need them coming back more often, you need them spending more every time they do. People get in their head so much about their own business and they just stop themselves from doing the things that they can do or doing what's necessary. And it's this huge block that comes in that prevents them from doing these things.
Oh yeah, that's huge. But that goes for every business owner on the planet, me included. I've got, the whole mindset of believing that you can do it and then not being overwhelmed by everything that you have to do, and you just sit there and go, oh, I just don't even know where to start. So yeah, mindset is huge, I think, for everybody, isn't it? And
we're all wearing so many hats. Like we're all trying to be a million different people all at once. And
you're the picker, the packer, you're the marketing director, you're the customer service agent. I mean, let's not talk about customer service. You're everything, and I think it's really hard to prioritize sometimes because you're stuck in the day-to-day all the time.
It's where they seem to get unstuck a little bit, though, is where they lose, like I say, like the 30,000-foot view, like where you can see all the different cogs in the right place. And actually, if one suddenly comes out of place, you can't see it because your head's so focused and you're like this. And that's when you start getting complaints and bad reviews and whatever else. And I think it's so important to, when you can either afford help or ask for help in whichever way you possibly can for something that isn't on a priority for you to have to do. I really encourage that. And it's something for a lot of business owners to realize where their strengths lie and where they're not so good at, and say, well, how can I get help with this so I'm not spending my whole life trying to work it out?
As an entrepreneur, if you are running your own business, by definition, we kind of want to be in control of it, and then having to let something go and hand it off to somebody else can actually be really scary. And I'm not very good at that. And that is one of my goals for 2025, is to do that and to be able to do that and not stress about it. But I think it's hard. It is hard for people to be able to step back and rationalize, like, as you say, oh, this is my area of genius. This is where I'm really good and I love doing this and I'm really good at it. But the bookkeeping, ugh, I hate it and I'm always behind with it. Get a bookkeeper, because it will change everything. If you've got up-to-date numbers and up-to-date figures for your business, you're not stressing over it. You know it's accurate. And so but yeah, it's hard to let go, I think, for a lot of people, isn't it?
When I first opened my business, I spent 2 years in hell. Like, I struggled, and I was that person who felt like I had to do everything. It was my business, so I had to be the one that did it, and I didn't want to have to trust anyone else to do any of those jobs for me. But the moment of clarity, when I started working with a mentor who helped me talk through systems and strategies and how to trust and delegate people, and I was like, oh my, that's when my business started working. It's when I started earning money.
Surprise.
Let's talk about Google Shopping.
Okay.
Your area of genius.
Okay.
So for anybody who may be thinking about going into Google Shopping, are there any sort of key strategies for them to be thinking about as they're first sort of looking to dip their toe into this brand new world?
So I think the first thing people need to understand, and this is, I always talk about this, is understanding how Google Shopping works, not technically works, but how it works, say, compared with Facebook ads. So most people, or Meta ads, should I say, most people are familiar with Meta ads. Most business owners will have dabbled in it because it's quite easy to just go in and set something up. Understanding how Google Shopping is different to that is quite important before you kind of get into it, because Meta ads, you are going in, you're targeting. I know targeting has changed a lot recently, but you're basically looking for the kind of people that you think will like your products. And you're putting something in front of them as they scroll through their feed, and you're hoping to catch their eye and for them to go, oh, that looks interesting, click on your website and come and buy. So it's interruption marketing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Google Shopping is demand based. It's demand based marketing. So with Google Shopping, you have the opportunity, when you set up a shopping ad, when somebody wakes up one morning and decides they want a new yoga mat, for example, don't know what made me think of that. They will go to Google, they will search for yoga mats, and you see all those lovely product images across the top. Those are the Google Shopping ads. So you have the opportunity of actually putting your yoga mat in front of somebody who is at that time looking to buy a yoga mat. So that's the power of Google Shopping. And the reason that I am talking about that is because you have to know that people are looking for your product. So there will be people out there selling products that maybe are a little, that like, if they're, so I always talk about poopery and the squatty potty. Okay. Because nobody woke up one morning and decided, I need to search for a squatty potty, because like nobody knew it existed. They didn't know they needed it. And like they just weren't. So that would not have worked with something like Google Shopping, because people weren't searching for it. You need to have a product that people are actively searching for. So yoga mats, notebooks, whatever, pens, pencils. So that's the first thing. You need to have a product that there is demand, there is search volume for on Google on Google.
And they can test that, can't they? I mean, you can go in and find that.
Yeah, literally, you can. And actually, a really good thing to do if you're not sure is to search for your products on Google. And if you see a load of shopping ads across the top, I have to caveat this. I've noticed recently some very broad searches. So like if you just search for running shoes, they're not showing shopping ads, or they haven't been showing shopping ads for some reason, and I don't know why.
Because it's not narrowed down enough.
It's not narrow. I think the broader terms, they seem to be showing more organic and search ads rather than the shopping ads, which is really weird. Anyway, they're probably testing something. They're always testing something, aren't they? But in general, if you're search for your products on Google and you see ads for your products, then you know, like, other people are advertising, there's demand for this. It's not a case of, oh, there's loads of people advertising, it's too competitive. Loads of people are advertising because there is demand for it, and so there is potential for you to generate traffic and get sales for.
Okay.
So that's the first thing you need to think about. As I did kind of mention briefly earlier, you do need to have a good website before you start as well. If you have a conversion rate of like 0.3% on your website, that's probably, unless it's for some very specific reason, like, I don't know, you have a very long buying cycle or whatever, you've got a very expensive product that takes months for people to decide to buy. But let's assume most people are selling a product, you know, that's a reasonably easy purchase for people. You do need to make sure that your website is converting before you start paying for more traffic to go to that website. So it's not necessarily a silver bullet if you're like not getting any orders on your website, but you are getting traffic already. I think first thing you need to do is look at, okay, then I'm getting enough traffic. Why am I not getting enough? Why am I not getting any orders? So an average conversion rate for e-commerce, let's say 1%. That's okay, 1 to 2%, but 1%, that's okay for e-commerce. If it's anything less than that, you kind of need to try and figure out why that's the case and almost like work on fixing that before you're going to start paying for more traffic to go to that website. So, you know, 100 visitors at 1% conversion rate is 1 order per 100 visitors. So if you've only got 0.5% conversion rate, you need 200 visitors before you get that 1 order. And if you're paying for 200 visitors, that's a lot. That's a big difference in how much money you're going to make.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing, I would say. Make sure your website is working properly and is converting at probably at least 1%, I would say. 1 to 2% is the ideal, really, you want to be at.
If you're at a 1%, so let's say you've got 100 people coming to your website from your Google ads, your Google Shopping, then that one person, the cost of that product and the profit that the business is making from that product has got to be a substantial amount to make the ad worthwhile in the first place, knowing that you've had to pay for the 100 people to get that one sale.
100%. So if you have an average order value of below about £30, you can still generate traffic, you can still generate orders with the ads, but you might struggle to get a good return on ad spend, because I'm not going to try and attempt to do the maths in my head now. So you do, you know, if your average order value is say 10 to 15 pounds, you are going, unless your traffic is really, really cheap, and even then it's probably going to be a struggle, you will get orders, but you'll find that you might be spending £15 to get an order for £15, whereas if your average order value is 30 or 40, you can spend £15 for an order for £40. You've got better, you know, that's workable. Whereas a lower average order value, you could struggle. Like I said, you'll generate orders. Now, if you have an initial order of say 10 to 15 pounds, but you have some, I don't know, some subscription way of doing so, when people come back and reorder and their lifetime value is really, really high, then that's something that you need to be aware of. You need to understand that, okay, I can afford to lose money on the first order that I generate, because I know that they are going to come back on average and buy from me another 3 or 4 times, and that's where I will make my money. So again, this is the whole thing. You kind of just have to understand your you do have to understand your numbers. There's no good just shoving money into any kind of ads without understanding how it all fits in with everything else. So yeah, and I always say like an average order value, it's around above £30, or what would that be, about $45 ish, $40, $50.
Yeah. What you're saying is there has to be a plan, like that. You can't just say, right, I've got a product, I need to make sales, I'm just going to start a Google Shopping ad and keep my fingers crossed and hope for the best. There has to be
that can work, but you know, don't be surprised if it doesn't, and then kind of then be trying to figure out why it's not working. It's better to go in before you start and go, right, where am I? How's my average order value? What can I do to bring that up if it's a bit on the low side? You know, what's my conversion rate? What's the problem? Have I not got one-click payment? You know, have I not got Apple Pay? If I add Apple Pay, will that improve things? So it's looking at the whole thing, not just, oh, let's start some ads and see what happens. I want people to succeed. I want people to kind of, when they start running the ads, know they have the best chance of them working well, rather than throw money at it. It works, but it's a bit meh. And then they have to go back and fix everything. And then, you know, that's all time and money that you've spent.
Money wasted. Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
So the first step is that we would say, before anyone that starts really going down this road, would be to have a website that you know converts customers, that you know works. It's not a clunky, outdated website from the early 2000s that is not doing anything for anybody. And then to actually create plans so when people do click through, well, first of all, their average order value is going to be £30 or above.
Yeah.
Or if it is below that, you've got very clear ways for people to add extra products to their cart as they move through your checkout process to bring it up.
Yep.
And then once we know that we've got those things in place, or that we've got a longer term plan to get people to keep purchasing and keep coming back and keep buying into more bundles and subscriptions and things like that, then you know exactly where you stand before you start throwing money at getting more traffic to come to your website. Does that sound
exactly
right?
it. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. And like I said, that's not just Google ads, that's any ads, like paying for traffic. Any kind of traffic is the same principles really are going to apply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so is there then some where, so if someone's sitting there saying, right, okay, I've got this sorted out, I've got this ready to go, how much should they start with? Like, should they have a minimum amount of spend that they should go in with, or is it completely different? Or
it's not like meta ads where people will, most meta advertising people will say that you need a minimum budget, and usually they'll say it's like you need at least £20 a day or $20 a day, whatever, because the way meta ads work is the algorithm needs data in order to kind of serve your ad and for it to work. Now, the same does apply with Google Shopping, because it is all, it's algorithms, it's all this data in the background being magically manipulated to kind of get your ads to work better. But it's not, you can start off with, say, £5 a day if you're feeling maybe a little nervous and you're not sure, like, oh, is it £5 a day? You can start. If you have 10 or £20 a day to invest in it, great, because what will happen is you'll get the results quicker. You'll get data coming through the account quicker. You'll see what's happening more quickly, and you can then start optimizing and kind of changing things as you need to more quickly. But yeah, if you only feel comfortable spending £5 a day, which works out about £300 a month, you can 100% start on that. It just takes longer for things to start happening.
so is there still like a learning phase that the Google algorithm goes through? So you're paying this £5 a day for a certain amount of time while the algorithm is learning who to get your ad in front of. Is it the same as in terms of with Meta ads where you're sort of bidding to get in front of that customer? Does it work out? Is it similar in that way?
It's similar. So with Meta, you're paying to go in front of somebody. With Google, you pay when somebody clicks on your ad. So you could show, I hope this wouldn't happen to anybody, but you could show your ad to 1,000 people. But if only one person clicked, you'd only pay for that one click with Google Shopping. So that's the big difference. Yes, there are algorithms working. So if you're a brand new advertiser, I don't want to really go into too much kind of technical mumbo jumbo here. If you're a brand new advertiser, you're limited as to what automated bidding systems you can use, because that, as with anything, it needs conversion data in order to be able to optimize for conversions. And a conversion would be a purchase in the case of e-commerce. If you're a brand new advertiser and haven't got any history in the account or anything, you are limited as the options you have. So the more you can spend, the quicker you get that data through, and then can start handing a bit more control over to Google, which is quite good these days if it has the data. But as a brand new advertiser, in general, I tend to advise people do manual bidding, so you are controlling the bidding. In which case, like, yeah, £5 a day is fine, because there are other things, there are other things that you are going to be looking at when you first start running the ads. So things like negative keywords, because if you are showing for the wrong terms, which you will, I can guarantee you will, because Google's great and their machine learning is great, but it will see dog toy and it will show you for a cat toy. Well, like we know that a dog toy and a cat toy is not the same, but to Google, dog, cat, whatever.
Yeah.
So there's lots you can do initially to make sure that you are showing at the right time for the right terms, that you're not showing up for dog training if you're selling dog toys, because you don't do dog training. And so I've forgotten what your question was now, but because I'm just got my head into this bidding and stuff. But
No, I think it's very helpful, because I think we get so fixated, especially when it goes into Google. We start looking at adding keywords in, and we start going, oh yeah, brilliant. And sometimes people can put too broader terms in, and not actually a lot of people even think about adding in negative keywords, and actually go down the road of discounting things and getting rid of the things that they really don't want to turn up for, because it has absolutely zero to do with them.
Yes. And that raises a very, very good point as well, which I haven't mentioned. You talk about adding keywords. Well, of course, with Google Shopping, you don't actually add keywords. You just give it your product data.
Okay.
So you give Google your product information, and then it decides, this is why the negative keywords are so important. It decides based on that product information. So your product title, your descriptions, various other attributes in the background, product types and stuff like that. It will look at that and go, oh, somebody's searching for a pink yoga mat. That's a pink yoga mat. We'll show that product because they can see that it's relevant. So this is where, when people talk about feed optimization, that's what they're talking about. I've got a very good example of, I found a sweatshirt. It was a grey sweatshirt with a reindeer nose on it. And the product title of that sweatshirt was called, and I can never remember, it was called something like Rudolph, let's call it Rudolph the reindeer. And that's what the product title was. So Google would look at that, and it doesn't see anything to do with a sweatshirt or a colour. So if somebody searches for a grey reindeer sweatshirt or grey Christmas sweatshirt, the product title says Rudolph the reindeer. They might link Christmas, a bit vague though, but nothing tells Google that that's a sweatshirt. So that's another very important thing that you have to be aware of with Google Shopping, is that the product information you give it needs to be relevant to what people are going to search for. So a lot of creatives who sell, they don't just call the product what the product is. They will call it the Sophia, or they'll call it the Abigail. Well, the Abigail doesn't tell Google what it is. You need to call it a blue leather crossbody bag. Now you can put a different, and I can hear people going, yeah, but I don't want to have that on my product title in my shop. That's fine, because you can have a different product title that you give to Google than you have on your shop. So that's fine, but you need to kind of think about how people will search for your products, and use the terms that they will search for in your titles and your descriptions, so Google understands. So,
and make sure, I suppose, that if you're going to use one title for Google, and then when it links back to that exact product page on your website and not just your home page or some other random page, that you have the same image and you have the same wording somewhere, whether it be in the description, even if you want the name to be different. So it's super clear that the person has gone to the right page.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, in Shopify, somebody got a Shopify, I'm sure most people would probably be familiar with, down the bottom of your Shopify product page, you've got your SEO title, that you can write an SEO title so that you could have, and which the good practice you would do for SEO anyway would not be to just have the Abigail as your SEO title, but to have it as navy blue leather crossbody bag, the Abigail. You can still have the Abigail in there. And that is what your SEO title would be, because then you're more likely to rank organically for blue leather crossbody bag than you are for just the Abigail. And that, in fact, that SEO title is what you can push through to then Google's Merchant Center. So really, you kind of, if you're working to optimize for Google Shopping and you're doing it through by tweaking your SEO title in Shopify or WooCommerce or wherever, then you potentially could be helping your SEO as well if you haven't already worked on that.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of a bit of a bonus there as well.
And do you ever say to people to use things like Uber Suggest or Google Keywords so if people aren't sure about what people are actually putting into Google, to actually have these questions answered?
Yes, so says the Google Keyword Planner, which you'll find inside your ad account. You don't need to be spending anything to be able to access the Google Keyword Planner. You've got, like you say, you've got Uber Suggest. There's a tool called keywords.io. You've got another one. When you go to Google and actually start typing in something, you've got the autocomplete as well. You know, where it comes up with other suggestions as you're typing.
Yeah.
There's that. That's a really good thing to look at because it will only show things that are popular searches. Also, at the bottom of the Google search results, you'll see more of those auto suggests as well. And Amazon actually is quite a good, useful keyword research tool for e-commerce, because again, you've got autocomplete. When you start typing, it will come up with other suggestions and lists and other things underneath, so you can see. But also, if you just in general look at the category structure inside Amazon, I mean, you can't even imagine how much they spend on doing research for all this stuff, can you? But if you look at the way their categories are organized and what they call their categories, you can actually get some quite good insights into, well, not into how to kind of structure your website a little bit, but how people search for particular types of products based on how they organize, because they have categories, subcategories, subcategories. I mean, they have loads of stuff, don't they? So
yeah,
Amazon is quite a good,
and they don't do it for the fun of it, and
no,
they're doing it because
nothing Amazon does is for the fun of it. It's all to make more money.
of course, yeah, it's done because they want to take you down the path that has been proven to make them the most amount of money. So if anything, I know a lot of small businesses hate Amazon for what it stands for, but to use it as a learning tool from their marketing to their messaging to the times of year they put out their promotions, it's been so cleverly thought through that we can learn a lot from the way that they're using their website themselves. It's an e-commerce site in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, their product page layouts, where the buy box is, the you may also like suggestions.
Oh.
Add all these three to your basket. You don't get a discount, but you just add all three to your basket. Yay.
Yeah. But there's something that I see a lot of e-commerce sites missing. Like even the suggestion of, if you like this, you will love this. It's a way of increasing your average spend. So we've talked about, for people that are new to the world of e-commerce, so they've gone, right, okay, I can understand how to get started. For people that have gone into it and they have maybe been using Google Shopping for a while, but they're not quite getting the results that they maybe were once having, and they've found that they've sort of deteriorated a bit, is there anything that they should be looking at to be testing, like metrics they should be looking at all for them to understand what's working, what's not working?
Yes. Well, as far as metrics goes, the main ones, no, things like click-through rates and impressions, yes, they're important that you understand what's happening. But when it comes to knowing whether it's working or not, the big ones are, you need to know how much you've spent, how much revenue you've generated, and the return on ad spend, so the ROAS, as people say, which is your revenue divided by your cost. So those are the numbers you need to be looking at. Again, it's amazing how often when I'll ask people, okay, what ROAS do you need for this campaign to be viable? And I just blank.
Yeah.
So because I'd love to get 700% return on ad spend. Yeah, but do you need 700% on that return on ad spend? Some people do need that. I've got a client who needs that because he's got such massive overheads and blah, 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 and quite tight margins. So we have to get 700% ROAS. But I've got other advertisers who they're quite happy with 300% because they've got really good margins and it's, that's fine. So you need to understand what the numbers mean for you, what your overheads are, what your product costs are, blah, blah, blah.
So for someone that I don't mean to interrupt, but just for anyone that might be confused by that.
Yeah.
So for them to understand what the return on ad spend might be, is that they actually really, really need to nail down their own numbers to know exactly what their profit margins are from their products.
Yes. So Google Ads will show you what the ROAS is for the ad account because it knows how much you've spent. It knows how much revenue you've generated. So it can show you that. But it can't show you how much you've spent, when you've made a sale of £100 and you've spent £20 to get the sale. That's a 500% ROAS, I think. Yes. It can't tell you how much you spent in product cost for that £100. It could be you could have spent £50 or you could have spent £25. So you just need, so when I say you need to understand your product costs, your overheads and that kind of thing, it's so that you know where your target needs to be, basically. Because like you might be looking at it and going, oh, I've got 300% return on ad spend in my account. That's rubbish. If you know that might be really good for some people. That's what I'm trying to say. But for other people, it will be losing money overall.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if you're not, so those are the numbers you need to be looking at to understand what's happening. If you're not happy and you want to improve results in general, so there's several places I would look. The first, as we've mentioned already, is negative keywords. So you need to be looking at the search terms that are resulting in the clicks that you're getting and make sure there aren't any there that are wrong. And just I've seen a lot of money wasted because I don't know why people click on ads that clearly are not related to what they've just searched for and then end up realizing they don't want it and disappear again. But they do.
We get sidetracked.
I don't know. So that can be a big one. If you haven't done that, if you haven't never looked at search queries to add negative keywords, that can be a big one that can make quite a big difference. You need to be looking at things like we've already mentioned, your product feed optimization. So if you're seeing lots of terms that aren't the right terms and like, why am I not showing up for what I want to show up for, which I know is the right term, that could be down to not optimizing your feed properly and tweaking your titles. Then it's things like, then the bidding is the big one then. So if you have a campaign that is on automated bidding, so in other words, you just say to Google, you go and deal with this, you need to make sure you've actually given Google a target. Because you can have no target. You can just say to Google, right, Google, I'm going to spend £20 a day, just get me as many conversions as you can. And if you just tell it to get you as many conversions as it can for £20 a day, that might be one. But if you tell it, no, I need as many conversions as you can get me, but you also need to hit a target return on ad spend of, say, I don't know, 500%. Then it will go away and go, oh, right, okay, we'll go. So that can be a big one for people. It's just they just haven't set a target for Google to work to. So like you need to give it something, like just like hey, just go off and go into that sweet shop and just buy as many sweets as you like. Instead of giving it a little bag and going, well, you can fill that bag, and when that bag's full, that's it.
Okay.
Weird analogy there, but anyway. So that is something that people miss very often as well, especially if they've set up Performance Max campaigns, which are like Google's fully automated campaign, which includes Google Shopping, but other stuff as well. And Performance Max very often can have either no target or a very low target. So they've set a target of like 100% return on ad spend, and then they're wondering why they're only getting 140. And you're like, you only told it you want 100, so it's actually doing really well.
It's overperforming, yeah.
So that's a big one for people to look at if they are not seeing what they want to see in their results. And just a quick caveat on that: if you haven't got a target or you have a low target, don't change it from 100 to 700, because if you do that, the campaign will just completely stall because it will go, oh, I can't do anything. It just has a panic attack and boom, nothing. So you kind of have to nudge it up slightly. You have to go from 100 maybe to 150, let that figure itself out there, and then once it's that settled, you have to go. So it's a slow process, but otherwise it'll just completely stop because it has a panic attack.
Yeah, well, a
I
bit like
can't
a
do
person.
700%.
Yeah.
I can only do 100.
Is there a certain amount of time that you have to leave it for it to be in that sort of in the increments that if you have
Well,
decided
that's like different people will say. Some people will say you should never change it more than once every 3 months. Like I recognize that that's not realistic for most advertisers.
Yeah,
I can't wait
a
3
long time
months
to
to
wait.
go up from 150 to 200. It usually takes up to 7 to 10 days in like learning mode,
Okay.
where it will settle down. I tend to kind of go in and use a little bit of common sense, really. If it's if you've made a change and say the traffic you're getting is fairly constant, it hasn't gone off a cliff, and it's starting to, you can see the ROAS starting to improve, I would probably say once every couple of weeks, maybe tweak it a little bit more. And if you don't tweak it too much, it doesn't shock the system too much. That's the key. So if you do small changes, you're not shocking it and putting it right back to the learning from the beginning. It should just be able to adjust slowly as you go through. So, but it
So
doesn't.
almost put themselves in Google shopping shoes and say, right, well, if someone was to tell me to do something, I have to be told in a way in which is clear, understandable, and a way in which it doesn't come across as confusing or overwhelming.
Yeah, think of it as a toddler as well. It kind of likes to have a hissy fit. You suddenly come up to a toddler and tell it to do something really random, like it'll go, no, it'll cross his arms and go, no, not going to. Whereas if you kind of coax it gently, say, well, how about we do this then? Oh, okay then. And just so gently, that's a bit silly way of thinking about it. But yeah.
I talk about toddlers quite a lot in that way, though,
Yeah.
because the same with marketing, that I think, right, well, if somebody who, a toddler, can't understand what you're saying to them in your marketing, your messaging, you
Yeah.
have to simplify it so people can get it quick, because we're moving so quickly through pages, through whatever we're looking for.
Yeah.
We need to get what the point is now. We don't want to
Yes.
have to keep trying to understand it, because people simply don't have the time for it or the inclination.
No, and the brain power. Have
Yeah.
headspace for it. Yeah, because there's too much else going on. Yeah. I mean, I do free reviews. If anybody is kind of advertising and spending a lot of money and think it's not working, I will do free reviews for people and say, look here, look here, look here, and have a look and make sure there's nothing sinister going on, because sometimes conversion tracking can be messed up and that kind of thing. So if it's really not looking good, it's probably worth, well, not necessarily me, but you can get people to do account reviews on Fiverr and places like that, and a lot of agencies will do a free review anyway, because it's like how they do lead generation for new clients and stuff. So yeah, it might be worth, if it's looking really bad and you just can't figure it out, is to actually get somebody, a Google Ads person, to actually have a look and do an audit or a review for you.
So what is there? So the last question that I have, which I ask everybody, what is the biggest piece of advice that you've been given that you would impart onto somebody else to help them in whichever area of their business or life possible?
Wow. Okay. I would say you have to step away from the business to actually work on the business and not just in the business, which is what we were talking about at the beginning. And I don't do it often enough, but when I do, it really does make a difference. So I think that would be the biggest thing, is that you have to set time aside, even if it's only once a week, to kind of have an hour and a half of, right, where am I going with this, and be more strategic and think about the business from a higher level rather than being stuck in the day to day.
To create a plan and to be able to actually have a strategy rather than trying to firefight the whole time.
Yes.
And hope
Which is harder than, it's hard to do. It's hard to create a good plan, but just to, step back. You need to step back and go, right, where are we going? Did that work? Yes or no? Like, what shall I try next? And actually try and be a little more sort of I can't think of the word. I can't think of the word I'm looking for now. But just look at it from that outside perspective. You know, like if a coach came in and looked at your business, what would they say? And try and get that hat on, and look at it really subjectively or objectively rather, and that I think will help.
And I think the biggest, so you going back to that, it's like, well, the biggest question I ask is why. So for someone to say to me, well, I've done this, why have you done this? Like, this
that's
is
a good one. Yeah.
Why has it worked?
That's
like,
kind of coming back to the toddler, isn't it? Keep asking why, but why?
Yeah.
Because I did this, but why? Like,
just to keep asking yourself, like, okay, so why am I doing this? Like, what is the benefit of this? Who is this going to help the most? But why am I really doing this? And why does this not work for me? And it's when you start having the answers as to the why, you can then build up a reason as to how you can keep moving forwards to keep making it better. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And I've learned a lot from talking to you over the last hour.
Oh, I've really enjoyed our chat, actually. Thank you.
So I will link to underneath this episode to your Instagram page, to your website, to your membership. So anyone that can find you, it will all be underneath there.